Yep, made that mistake. Oh! I had it in his mouth. No.
Chasing man, it shows how to perform. Well, your style's been changed because we're so vain, but you'll take sunset for stone. Look out, honey, you're bad, bad, bad. Here you come, said you're bad, bad, bad. Sing for a time, you're the hottest ticket in town. Well, your shorts, new moves, cause baby, you're smooth, you're above us.
Well, get those life vests dipped in clips, strap down those rods, and put away those tackle bags because we are going fishing. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Bass Two Anglers podcast. I hope this episode finds you with 5 for 25 in your live well. I'm your host, Keith Nicewonger, and today we have more content from the Lake Guntersville Writers Conference that I attended not too long ago. Some great stuff in this. You're not going to want to miss it. But first, if you like the content we produce on this channel, please subscribe. Ring that notification bell and send us a comment if you're so inclined. By now, I'm sure you know that we are the Western representatives for ducket fishing, pro-driven rods, reels, and baits. Ducket fishing is coming to the West. You know these guys, the strongest pro staff in all of professional fishing. Ducket is building a Western presence, and if you haven't seen it yet, you soon will. Quality that meets and exceeds other brands on the market at prices that must be seen to be believed. How come you never heard of them? You just did. Find out about the Ducket lineup of pro-driven rods, reels, and baits by going to their website, ducketfishing.com. At the Lake Guntersville Writers Conference, I had the opportunity to spend a portion of the day with Bass Pro Tour star Britt Myers. We spent the morning fishing the ledges for Guntersville bass, and then we went in and sat down in the air-conditioned room and talked about fishing rods, and what an amazing discussion this was. I always like to talk to pros about their equipment. It's the insight that they provide is invaluable. I think you're going to want to see this.
Thank you, man.
No problem.
Moonshine, whiskey, and rye. Step into my boots and I head for the door. Gonna live a few hours for and die a few more. When loving you feels like living in a war, I don my hat from the liquor store.
Got Britt Myers.
My M-Y-E-R-S, that's
Right,
correct.
Britt
Yes.
Myers I'm in his boat this morning. This is day 2 of the Riders Conference, and we're going to go out and see.
Go catch some offshore bass, some Tennessee River, Lake Guntersville bass.
All right. Big concern this week is that there hasn't been much current, hasn't been much wind. Does that concern you?
You know, when you're fishing here, you always want a lot of current. Anglers always want everything in their favor, but they're still biting, so we should still catch some fish. So I'm just looking forward to getting out here.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
All right, so we're out here on Lake Guntersville, and we're out here on basically the main channel, the main river channel, and we're just looking for little dips, irregularities, stuff in the basically on the side of this river channel there's eelgrass, and a lot of those fish are holding the eelgrass, and the current breaks right outside that eelgrass. And as wide as this lake is right now, if you can imagine if they dropped it 15 foot, there'd just be a river.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually just fishing the edge of the river and just looking for places like that. I found a spot yesterday that had a few fish on it, so we're gonna head up here right now and check it out. Many years ago. Hear that?
Got you on the way down?
Oh, he was swimming up.
Oh.
Like maybe he was getting ready to try to throw it.
Yeah. We are again at the Guntersville Riders Conference, and we have with us today Britt Myers, South Carolina, actually right on the border of South Carolina and North Carolina. And I had a chance to go out and do some ledge work with him today. And while the conditions are not particularly great out here at Guntersville, I did manage some fish. Got a great lesson on live scope. Is that what Garmin calls their
That's
product?
correct.
Okay,
Yep.
good. Sometimes I get these mixed up, but got a great lesson on live scope and in fish behavior and the way fish gather on these ledges. It's just it's pretty cool stuff. I wanted to talk to Britt today because Britt is a Duckett Pro staff angler, and he has designed a couple of rods for Duckett. Let's start with that medium heavy Pro Series 7-foot 1-inch fast tip rod that you've designed. That's a casting rod, right?
It's a casting rod. That's correct. So we talked about this on the lake. I'm really simple. I'm not a guy who likes to have. I like to have a lot of certain rods, but not a lot of different SKUs. and part numbers and different actions. So the 7-1 was a rod like that you can use for throwing an offshore smaller swim bait or even a top water, and it's just a little longer than a 7-foot, because I've used a 7-foot medium, 7-foot heavy. Like I said, I try to keep things simple, but I wanted something a little bit longer but didn't kill your wrist and didn't create so much drag when casting like a 7.6 or something. That 7-1 is a phenomenal rod. It's getting a lot of traction. Matter of fact, I saw on social media a guy had finished 6th place, and he had mentioned that throwing his finesse buzz bait at 6th place at the Pro Circuit event, he caught one near 7 pounds on a finesse buzz bait with that rod. So a lot of people are talking about it. I love it, and it's actually just it's very light, very sensitive, and you can cast a long way with it.
Talk about the things that you use that rod for.
It is a medium heavy. It's a finesse jig. I don't like, even offshore, if I'm throwing a finesse jig, I don't like to throw it on a really long rod. That 7-1 is perfect for that. Everybody throws like small swim baits. That's a big thing right now all over the country. 1/4 ounce head, things like that. I fish at home. I fish a lot of the Heron Lakes, Murray, Hartwell, and in the wintertime, that smaller swim bait on my home lake, Lake Wiley Norman, and all that is a big deal, and that is the perfect rod for that. A little bit longer length than your average 6'10", 7-foot, but like I said, not too cumbersome that you can't throw it all day without being just worn out at the end of the day.
It's pretty much something that you can do a lot of different things. Throw a worm on it?
Absolutely, you can throw a worm on it. I wouldn't throw it on a big hook like a light wire, a light wire hook deal. You could throw a heavier shaky head on it. Actually a shaky head. It would be perfect for that. It'll work good with baits with 10-pound line to 15-pound line type stuff.
Yeah, I'm hearing versatility in this, and for so many people, now lots of rod companies make lots of specialized things, but this is more of a utility type rod that can be used for a lot of different things.
It absolutely can, and that is like I said, I'm not a guy who, I may have a lot of rods, but they're a lot of only a certain part number, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I just, I'm a tournament angler. When I go to different lakes, if a square bill's the deal and I want to pick up, I want to tie 3 or 4 on, I got to have 3 or 4 of the same rod that have the exact same action. And when I was given the opportunity for the Signature Series rod, I wanted a rod that I could use.
Yeah.
And that right there was absolutely it, and it's been a great success so far.
And next, a new rod for the Pro Series line is the Britt Myers medium cast spinning, 6'8". Tell us about the thought process that went into that one.
So, where I grew up fishing, and I still fish a lot, is we have docks.
Yes.
South Carolina, North Carolina, a lot of dock lakes, and it's actually fantastic. It's not too long to really get behind dock poles, underneath dock floats, things like that. And at the same time, I do a lot of vertical jigging, things like that when it's cold, and I can use that rod for both of those. And I've gotten to where, honestly, shaky head, stuff like that, target casting. Because a 7-foot, for me, for some reason, is just a little bit too long to try to really get a bait in a really tight area. And that 6'8" is perfect for that.
I was, when you started talking about that, I was thinking, now, are you doing a lot of bait skipping?
Yeah, skipping as well.
Okay, and I could see you with that. So, for those of you that, I know we have a lot of people out there that do a lot of dock fishing, but here's a rod that is maybe a little shorter than what a lot of people are using, but that extra 4 inches, or that 4 inches that are less than a 7-footer, there's that extra aspect of being able to kind of barrel roll and skip a cast under a dock.
The difference between skipping a Cinco underneath a dock with a 7-foot versus a 6'8" is tremendous.
Yeah,
it really is. And even if it's not my 6'8", you should borrow one, do something, get one, try it. and it's an awesome rod for sure.
Well, again, I think this is something that a lot of people want to get better at doing, and getting better at a technique does not necessarily mean that your skill is not off. It might be the equipment you're using.
Right.
And a shorter rod makes a lot of sense in that situation.
It does. You know, we sell. I know myself. A lot of times, I'll go to a bigger rod. Even on casting, I'm a 6'6" jerkbait guy.
Okay.
I don't like a longer rod, and I find myself getting tired and not wanting to throw the bait all day long. And about 3 years ago, I went from like a 6'10" to a 6'6", and now I can pick up a jerkbait all day long, and it gets the job done for me. So that's the same thing to 6'8", fishing around docks and stuff. You're not struggling to, you're not fighting it. You're putting the bait where it needs to go every single time.
I had a great conversation with Boyd about this. Boyd is the golfer, and you've got a whole sack full of golf clubs that have specific purposes, and for certain shots you would not consider using anything but the club that was used for that. I think fishing rods can be that way.
Yeah, I never thought about that, but it makes perfect sense. You don't want a long club when you're trying to put it in a little area like that. That makes a lot of sense.
Well, I mean, if you're coming up to a stretch of docks and there's there's shade under it and there's room to skip something under there, that's what you want to do.
Absolutely.
You want to be skipping it. You don't want to be fishing it necessarily parallel,
right,
because of where the shadows are and things like that. You got to reach into your golf bag and pull out the right rod. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I get a lot of people asking about boat dock fishing. How do you skip underneath there? A lot of it is the equipment, and whenever you feel like you've got the right tool for the job, it makes it easier. Things flow easier. So definitely get rid of those long rods, and shorter rods will help you get underneath the docks.
Yeah, and because I find myself in that situation sometimes. Oh, I just can't do this technique.
Absolutely.
These other guys, I just can't do it.
Right.
Well, it's very possible that you may have the talent, you may have the coordination and the dexterity and all that. You may have that. You're just using the wrong tool.
Absolutely. No, I truly believe that. Even on reels, skipping docks, going to like a 100 series ducket reel versus a 200,
okay,
makes it that much better.
Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, the less line, the less problems. I mean, it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
A giant spool is going to backlash more, but Duckett's new Paradigm series actually is phenomenal. All their rods for skipping underneath docks and things like that. But I recently switched to that 100 series reel. And it makes it just, I mean, you can make just a dumb cast, hit a dock the wrong way, and there's no backlash to deal with. So definitely dock fishing, go to that smaller reel, and it just creates less hassle, and you're having more fun. You're not fighting it.
Right.
We all, as anglers, if you start fighting something, you quit doing it.
Absolutely.
And we know they live on docks, so just get better at it, and go that route.
I'm always looking for these nuggets whenever I talk to somebody, and that's really, it's like one of those things for me, like, whoa, light bulb just went on.
Right.
Maybe I can go back to trying to fish docks, because maybe with a shorter rod I'm going to be more accurate, and there you go. I do these just so I can learn stuff.
No, I learn every day.
Whenever I sit down and interview a pro, I'm always looking for that gold nugget. I'm always looking for that piece of information that makes my fishing better, and I hope everybody else's as well. I think in this interview, Britt really shared some good stuff. Talk about the specialized equipment for something like skipping docks with weightless Senkos. We don't always think about specific equipment that we need, and I thought his insight was absolutely brilliant. There's a lot more content where this came from. Stay tuned. And until we talk next time, keep both hands on the wheel and be safe out there.